So you found the skeleton. How would you tell it to represent you personally? How would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Chick Tract reading, although this time it's like a full-length comic book, which is weird for me, because my exposure to Chick Tracts has always been like the 6 to 10 page little tracts that you give to like waitresses as in lieu of tip because you're a gigantic asshole. That's my familiarity with them. But I'm here with Chesh, Beethoven, no relation, and Vishanti. So let's say hi, everybody. We'll go in order. Chesh.
Hi, everybody.
Bent.
Hi, everybody. Except for the robots.
Right. This is also an opportunity to, like introduce yourselves if you want to.
Oh, I'm Bent.
Here you go, Vishanti.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
All right.
Well,
Well,
you let us
those are-
here.
these are some amazing introductions.
Who
if
let
you-
us in?
I almost didn't introduce myself, but then I'm looking at your stream and you cut off like Bent and my little name tags at the bottom of our stream.
Oh, did I?
So
Oh.
maybe I should.
You know what? I think I can fix that. I can probably. My fault.
Oh, hi, everybody.
I cut off the top of
Hi,
people's heads
Dr.
too.
Nick.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
All right, guys. So, in case the people watching don't know, this is the crew that I call like my reading stupid stuff crew, because they went through Chick Tracts with me previously. Each of them spent most of 6 episodes worth of reading Kent Hovind's quote-unquote dissertation with me. So these are the 4, I guess 3 people plus me for 4. These are the 3 people who I invite when it's like, hey guys, I'm gonna read some really, really stupid crap. Want to come help out with that?
What does that say about us?
Hey, would you like a brain aneurysm?
And
Sure.
these are the
Since
3
we
who say
haven't-
yes.
No, we're the ones that say yes. That's it.
You know what? I haven't seen enough stupid today. I'm down.
Look,
So-
if I'm on the show, I don't have to really watch the show.
That's true. So, in case anyone doesn't know, what we're going over today is a comic book called The Prophet. It was published by Jack T. Chick in 1988. Or at least that's when the copyright is. It could have been renewed, I guess. I don't really know. But I'm going to assume it was published in 1988. Which says that the Catholic Church created Islam. A spoiler alert for everyone out there. No, that is not the position that this panel is accepting. That's...
Listen, speak for yourself, Dapper.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe Chesh is going to say that, yes, the Catholic Church
I don't
created...
know. I'm going to be convinced by the comic.
I remain undecided.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to let the comic influence and our response to the comic also
I'm
influence.
pretty
my
strongly on the no side of that controversy, if you will.
That's how I start out, but I will keep an open mind.
That's fair. I mean, look, maybe I'll be convinced too. It seems unlikely, but
No, it won't happen.
you never know.
It could happen.
All right, so we're going to do this the same way we basically did the Chick Tracts, where we're sort of like going to grab characters and read their lines, and then when we need to, occasionally we'll interject. This comic book is, I believe, 22 pages. Oh, no, 29 pages. But the bottom few pages are going to be stuff that's like just straight up preaching, and we usually skip over that because, yes, Jack, we know you want us to believe in Jesus, and therefore do all the sinner's prayer and stuff. We get it. We've heard it every time. Vandali 1998 for $5 says, with a mop emoji, here's money for therapy after reading these. Thank you very much. I don't know how much therapy $5 is going to get me, but, every little bit helps. All right, guys.
The Venerable Bede said if you're repping America Chavez, then open a portal, and that would be dangerous. Because I don't think any of them want to get punched into another universe, so...
Well, could you open a portal
I'll have to
on Jack
refrain.
Chick?
I might.
Could you open
Like
a
I
portal
said,
in the same universe?
dangerous power to have.
Like Jumper? Oh, wait, no, Jumper didn't open... Well, it did, but it was like single-person portals. Touching portals.
All right, guys. This is the beginning. So, we got Beirut, Lebanon, 1983. Who wants to be this blue shirt guy?
I'll do that.
Okay.
It's official, Charlie. Where is this?
Beirut.
West Beirut has fallen to the... No, now I'm not being this person. I can't pronounce any of this stuff.
It's
I take it
official,
back.
Charlie. West Beirut is followed to the Shiite
Yes.
Muslims. Okay,
You
thank
guys okay?
Nope.
But get this, there are reports of mass defections of Shiite Muslims in the Lebanese army.
Good grief! It's falling apart all around us.
The shelling is driving me nuts. I hope we get orders to leave soon.
Your orders did come through, Roscoe, but you have to do one more report in the streets of Beirut this afternoon.
Oh, crud. I hope I live through it.
By the way, we have a $2 super chat from Goopdo3 who says, it's my birthday. Well, happy birthday,
Happy
Goopdo3.
birthday.
I hope you have a wonderful
Feliz
birthday.
cumpleaños a ti.
Happy birthday.
Hey, careful. Oh, wait, no, it's not copyrighted anymore. Copyright got, like, shot down in the court. They were like, nah, you don't actually have a copyright, whatever company it was. Okay, so this is our blue-shirted man again.
The Marines are leaving. The winner appears to be Syria. Since the bombing of the Marine compound at the Beirut airport, which left 241 Marines dead. The angry outcries at home have forced the removal of American forces. It looks like the Christian government of Lebanon is ready to fall.
The Americans killed my people, and I'm going to kill him.
Wait, Yosef.
No, I won't.
So, oh, maybe there's a bit for Ben.
This is Roscoe Baker, ABS News, reporting from Beirut, Lebanon.
So in case people don't know, this is set during the Lebanese Civil War, which did happen in the 80s. And before this, Lebanon had a system where there was proportional representation by religion in the legislature. And when this system was set up at the end of the British Mandate, the proportions were set based on a census at the time. And at the time, Lebanon had a majority Christian population, so they were given the majority of the seats. However, by the time the 80s rolled around, that situation was no longer the case, and there was a growing movement to do a new census and reapportion seats. And that was sort of the thing that led ultimately to a civil war, because, well, unfortunately, the new legislature started passing some rather restrictive rules about things like Christianity, and it wasn't a good time for anyone. And yeah, so there was a whole lot of things, and like
Venerable Lead says it's Feliz cumpleaños, and I'm like, no, Feliz cumpleaños.
Get out of here, European Spanish speakers. We're doing New World Spanish, guys. New World Spanish. Anyway,
Let's see your passport.
Here it is. I'm a reporter. I'm Roscoe Baker with ABS News.
You are pro-Zionist and support the Christian phalanges, whatever.
Phalanges?
Phalange? What the hell?
Like phalanges?
Phalanges? Fingies?
Well, in this case, it's actually taken from the plural for phalanx, which was a Greek military formation.
Of course.
Wait a minute.
You are an enemy of Allah.
Yes, words can have more than one meaning, Ben, as it turns out.
Go figure. My cousins were murdered by the in the refugee camp because your Marines pulled out and left them defenseless.
But I didn't kill them.
I believe the filthy Christian phalanges did, and you supported them.
So this refers to the fact that there were in fact basically Christian terrorist organizations going around doing horrible things at the time. Like, that's a thing that happened. Yeah. And it's also true that, yeah, most Christians were like, no, we probably shouldn't do that, but it still is a thing that happened. There were, in fact, Christian terrorist organizations in Lebanon during the Civil War. It was a very, very unpleasant time, like I said.
What do you mean? The Christians have never done anything in their history of forever that might be considered terrorism. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm neutral. Really, I am.
No, Yusuf. Don't shoot him. Let him live. He's only a reporter.
Get out of Lebanon, Mr. Reporter, and maybe I'll let you live.
I will.
Wait, is this guy gonna follow him back?
I
Yes.
think he'll decide whether or not to detonate the bomb they implanted inside me.
Oh, okay. You got one of those, like, you know, enema-based bombs.
He put a spider tick tracker up his
Oh,
nose with
gross.
every bit of his gun.
Okay.
That explains that itch.
I think
Death to the enemies of Allah.
I'm dead.
Look at Roscoe. He's got his weapon pointed straight at your back. Oh, this is amazing digitization right here.
Boy.
Guys,
Ha ha ha! Did you
Click.
see Sweat Hashim?
Stop fooling around, Yusuf. Let's go home.
He learned his lesson, Hashim. He won't be back. Wait, did he have a mustache the whole time?
I think so. Let's double check.
I don't think he did.
There's like a shadow.
It's not clear.
It's so
not
hard
clear.
to
He grew a
tell.
mustache and was
No.
so stressed out.
Look at the beginning.
Is this the
Look
same
at the
person?
beginning.
His shirt is a different color now.
So the first
Look
time
at
we see his
page one.
face, he's got like a shadow. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that this guy just grows a mustache really, really fast, and he went from like a shadow, like just stubble, to a full-grown mustache in the course of about 15 minutes tops.
I can't take any more of this.
It
These
was-
people are fanatics. They're crazy.
It was because he came into contact with a gun, so he got like more manly instantaneously.
Yeah, I know. It's more like a religious war between Christians, asterisk, and Muslims. The asterisk is Roman Catholics. Fun fact, the majority of Christians in Lebanon are not Catholic.
Womp womp.
Fine, I'll do this guy. Excuse me, I couldn't help overhearing you. I'm a missionary, and let me tell you, the phalanges are not Christians. They may go under the names of Coptic, Byzantine, Orthodox, etc., but they are all basically Roman Catholic.
All right, and that's where we have to stop for something here, because that is not how anything works. So here's the thing. There are a lot of Christian groups, the majority of Christians, in fact, that Jack Chick would probably lump in, or would have lumped in because he's dead now, as quote-unquote Roman Catholic. And basically his criteria for being Roman Catholic seems to be like, well, your priests, first you have people that you call priests, and they dress in fancy things, and they have a liturgical worship service. That seems to be it. The thing is, the main thesis of this Chick Tract is going to be that the Pope created Islam, and he also, like, controls all these other churches, except that with the possible exception of Byzantine, because I don't know exactly what he means, he might mean the Byzantine Catholic Church, which is one of the Eastern Rite Catholic churches that do listen to the Pope. With the exception of that, those other two groups, they don't listen to the Pope at all. In fact, they have a whole lot of theology about why the Pope is bad. And why he's not in charge of them. And that's actually like a major important part of their identity as Christians.
It's a pretty
is
big distinction.
Yeah. So, and plus, yeah, these are Christian groups. Not only do they self-identify as Christian, but they also believe all of the major doctrines that even people like Jack Chick would say makes you a Christian. Things like, you know, the Trinity and the divinity of Jesus and all those things.
But are they allowed to dance in a small southern town?
It depends on the bylaws there and whether or not we've actually had some dirty dancing going on in that town beforehand, which might change people's minds.
Why doesn't the news media explain this to the public?
I think this is you, Ben.
Great. Just what I need, another fruitcake. Come on, let's get out of here. Muslims, Christians, Catholics, who really cares? I'm sick of this whole mess.
Los Angeles International Airport. I think that's still you. I think that's the same guy.
Yeah, that's the same
I
guy.
don't know how much long. It's hard to see without a mustache view. I don't know how much longer I can handle this pressure. Maybe I should get a nice quiet desk job at the Times. Being chained to a desk may drive me crazy, but anything's better than the Middle East.
I am laughing so hard because if you've ever been to LAX, you might
Oh, goodness.
you'll still see this little restaurant in the center, but there's a huge terminal that surrounds three sides of it. So I don't know what direction they're looking, but
Well, maybe
Thank
was
God
it
I'm back.
was it the same in the 80s?
yeah, like the terminal has been in basically a glorified U shape for a while. So
Oh, I
yeah,
have.
no, that's just funny to me because anyway,
I'm
LA
calling
people
character
will get
Tim.
it, but
I'm calling Tim. That's gonna be my character. You guys can't have it.
okay.
He's in the next couple panels. But Ben, I think you're up.
I'm
Coffee
waiting
shop.
for someone to say, yeah, I think I'll get a cup of coffee in here and relax.
Roscoe.
Tim?
I can't believe it. I haven't seen you since we got back from Nam.
Tim, your hair changed color in panels?
Yeah. I had a quick dye job, bleach it a little bit, added some extra color back in. It's a whole thing. It happened between panels. Don't worry about it.
It's okay. I think. What the heck?
Who's this
They
gray
got.
hair?
What is happening? The sequential art. Hold on. There's Roscoe's sitting at the table. Tim walks by. They start a conversation. Then instantly they get up and teleport to meet somebody else.
Yes.
Out of left field.
Look,
Okay.
Jack Chick has his own visual storytelling style that developed independently of like the broad consensus of how comic books work.
What is the style called when it's intended to just baffle the reader?
Chickian.
Trash.
Well, there's that too. All right, so I think I'm up because my hair color changed, but that's still me, right?
I'm
Roscoe.
gonna be the old man.
Okay. Roscoe, here are some close friends of mine. I'd like you to meet Jim Carter and Dr. Rivera, who, by the way, was one of the big consultants
Hello,
on
Roscoe. Happy to meet you. Roscoe, I saw your special report from Lebanon. Things look pretty tense.
You don't know the half of it. It was a nightmare over there. Both sides in the conflict are so vindictive, it's not like anything I've ever seen. It doesn't make sense.
It does, Roscoe, if you know the history of the Muslim faith.
All right, so here's where we're going to start getting something that I'm pretty sure isn't going to resemble anything close to the history of Islam. But who's talking here? I think
I have the next line, but
I think it's Roscoe. Yeah, I think it's Roscoe, and then old man in brown coat.
Dr. Rivera, I've had Muslims coming out of my ears. What more is there to know? Did I read
Stop
that
using
right?
Q-tips, son.
Did I have a stroke, or is that actually what that says?
That's what that says.
Okay, just
But
making
also,
sure.
I love the focal
your
point of this panel is the ice cream sundae.
Yeah, why is that?
It's
point
not
is
them.
actually
They're
the
just
page
like
break.
an afterthought in the background. It's just this ice cream. Like
You don't even see
Jack,
the
what are you
kid's
doing?
head.
Yeah, it's a very confusing panel.
Okay. What I'm going to tell you is what I learned in secret briefings in the Vatican when I was a Jesuit priest under oath and induction.
Hey,
There's-
you notice that
Is there an
the
asterisk?
guy
Doesn't
that
go anywhere. Oh, it's
teleported-
down at the next panel.
the guy that teleported in that doesn't have any lines yet with the dark hair is looking back at this kid at the panel.
Oh, yeah. What? Maybe he's jealous of the ice cream.
Damn, I
ice
want one of those ice creams.
cream. It's like I don't care about this history of Islam thing. Give me some ice cream. Oh man. Yeah, Liz D.
Okay.
Liz D points out chick comics have weird frames. They really do. Here-
All right,
here's the
so-
thing about this whole secret briefing thing.
But also, is Rivera Hispanic, or is that just like a coincidental name? Because he's drawn more or less looking like white. What accent should I be using for this guy?
Actually, we can just find out. So, what's his first name? It's at the top of the comic.
I don't
Alberto.
feel like scrolling.
Which one? Oops.
Let's find out. Because his name is up at the top here. Alberto Rivera.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alberto.
So I'm going to go ahead and guess, but we're going to find out that he's actually from Spain. Because if you're a Jesuit who's working at the Vatican and you have a Spanish name, chances are that you're Spanish, but maybe not. So let's see. Roberto Rivera. There we go.
Alberto.
Oh, yeah, Alberto. Yeah. It probably makes a difference. In fact, it does. Because Roberto Alvera worked at the Arecibo telescope, which I don't think Alberto Rivera did. Let's see.
That makes a good point. Maybe he's just a white guy who's from Spain.
As are most Spaniards white.
Alberto Magno Rivera Romero, who died in 1997, was an anti-Catholic religious activist who was a source of many conspiracies about the Vatican espoused by fundamentalist Christian author Jack Chick. No surprise there. Let's see. Born in the Canary Islands. So yeah, he's Spanish.
Yep, Spain.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Let's
I can't believe that Venerable Bede is gonna make me do the freaking. You know what? No, I'm not gonna do mainland Spanish. TH
But he's from Spain.
accent. He's from the Canary Islands, and that's below Andalusia. So, ha!
Okay, but
just gonna go with
what
that.
does that Spanish in the Canary Islands actually sound like, though? Because I don't know.
Well, a lot of the people who freaking got the hell out of Spain when the Inquisition started went to the Canaries first.
But was that
I'm
before
going
or
with it.
after the S turned into a dental fricative?
No one cares. This is my headcanon.
Okay. For Vishanti's headcanon,
Canon
it's
history.
before.
This is the way.
Okay, so here's one thing, right? If you want to propose like secret meetings and conspiracies and things, you have the burden of proof to show that those things happened. You can't use that as an excuse as to why you don't have evidence for your claims.
It was a secret.
Yeah,
It's a secret. He
great.
was under oath. Like, it
All-
has to be true. I'm
all
He
saying.
was
suggesting-
under oath that he couldn't say anything, which is why he's now talking about this in this random airport to the guy he just met.
So here's the thing about how logic works and how evidence works. If you want to propose some crazy idea and say that it's true, you had to provide evidence for it. And if you then
You mean like
propose
if you
that
were gonna
there's
accuse somebody of blackmail?
right, and then if you want to propose that there's also on top of this a conspiracy, well, now not only do you have to provide evidence that you're right, don't get to use your idea of a conspiracy to negate your need to provide evidence. You just also now have to show that there's actually a conspiracy. So adding a conspiracy to your crazy ideas doesn't help. It just makes you
Also-
look crazier unless you can demonstrate
Venerable Bede
conspiracy.
is saying, tell it to America in the 1880s. I've read, like, my ancestry records from going back to, like, the 1500s in the Canary Islands, actually. And you would be surprised how Mexicans and Spaniards are classified. So, yeah. Like, I've seen immigration records from, like, the turn of the century where my ancestor was as brown as a piece of toast and they listed him as white Caucasian. So have fun with that.
It's
Anyway.
almost like racial designations have very little to do with actual biology.
It's almost like they passed a law that said if you weren't white, you couldn't come to America. So they wanted laborers from Mexico and they just went, nah, you're white now.
Yep. I mean, look, you speak a European
But not
language.
those pesky Asians.
Mm-mm.
Anyway,
Look, there's a line
It's just a
from Blazing Saddles that sums that up pretty well, but I'm not going to repeat it because I want to keep my monetization.
You know,
I love that movie so
idiots.
much.
Yeah, go watch it. It's great. It's got Gene Wilder in it. It's a great movie.
Mongo only pawn in Game of Life. I love that.
It is a
movie so
great movie.
Okay. A Jesuit cardinal named Augustine Bay showed us how desperately the Roman Catholics wanted Jerusalem at the end of the 3rd century. Because of its religious history and its strategic location, the holy city was considered a priceless treasure. A scheme had to be developed to make Jerusalem a Roman Catholic city.
Okay, so fun fact, at the end of the 3rd century, there was no separation between the Orthodox and Catholic churches, and there was the Imperial Church, which was the church in Jerusalem. The Roman Empire was still a united empire at the end of the 3rd century, and the Imperial Church was the official religion. Well, it wasn't quite the official religion in Jerusalem yet, but it was the state-supported religion in Jerusalem. It couldn't become any more Catholic at the end of the 3rd century than it already was. So already we're in
Sounds
crazy
like-
land.
Man, the 3rd century was like the beginning of the height of all their councils and stuff, so yeah.
Oh, no, I'm thinking the 4th century. At the 3rd century, there wasn't even a Catholic church. It wasn't even the official religion yet. They didn't even have tolerance in the Roman Empire. I'm thinking the 4th, because I'm thinking 300s, because I'd always do that.
True.
Yeah, so
Okay.
at the 3rd century,
Anyway.
we're still talking the 200s. So, I mean, there isn't even an official Roman church, like, as a part of a function of the government yet. This is insane.
Oh my god. Now they're quoting Blazing Saddles on the side chat. David Beat 22585 says, I'm partial to, but I shoot with this hand. Okay. The great on-top source of manpower that could do this job was the children of Ishmael. The poor Arabs fell victim to one of the most clever plans ever devised by the powers of darkness.
Powers of darkness, which weren't in charge of anything in the 200s.
Please let me give you a brief historical background.
Okay.
Yes, the kid just sees.
I think that's actually coming from this woman here, who's presumably this kid's mom. The mom is just butting in. She's like, okay.
No, it's coming from the coffee cup.
Oh, okay.
From her
Yes,
coffee cup.
I'm in the
The
cup.
coffee is listening and no one else.
I'm in there.
Okay.
That's me.
Back when Israel was under the iron hand of Rome, great Bible prophecies were fulfilled. God raised up a prophet called John the Baptist to introduce the world to the one who was prophesied to come.
Behold the Lamb of God, which who? Oh, it doesn't matter. Which taketh away the sin of the world.
You didn't pronounce the ellipses, though.
Oh, behold the
Which
Lamb of
It's there
God.
for reasons.
Let's
I
get
think
a,
we're
and
at
it's a
the
4
crazy
dot
part
ellipsis.
already.
Okay, we're deep into the crazy
That's a
part.
typo. 4 dots is a typo.
I think we can skip down to page. What page number is this? 7.
Yeah, because there's just like casual anti-Semitism. Scroll. Let's go down to because this is just his like gospel insertion.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. So guys, go
Find the
read,
map of Africa. We can start there.
Go read the 4 Gospels if you want to know what Jack Chick is saying here, and then just assume that he's condensed it and taken really stupid and racist takes on it, and you have this whole thing.
Go down to after the Romans sack and burn Jerusalem.
Is that I'm on page 7.
Panel, right after the Romans in that panel. Keep
Here we
going,
go.
Just a little. Okay.
Well, I
fine,
want to get
I'll
to
start there.
the Jews rebellion in 80-70 because that's definitely after the New Testament.
Okay. The Jews rebelled against Rome, and in 70 AD, Roman armies under General Titus smashed Jerusalem and destroyed the great Jewish temple, which was the heart of Jewish worship and the fulfillment of Jesus' prophecy in Matthew 24:2. He was referring to himself, not the building, but okay. Note, on this holy place today, where the temple once stood, stands the Dome of the Rock Mosque, Islam's second most holy place. It was a horrible slaughter. Some Jews were taken captives while others escaped in all directions for survival. Some of the Jewish refugees settled like nomads living in tents in North Africa. Sweeping changes were in the wind. Corruption was eating into the Roman Empire, and she was ready to collapse.
No, it wasn't.
I'm a god.
Yes, Caesar.
Caesar. Okay, so here's something.
All of them. Oh, I skipped it because there's a page break. Apathy, greed, cruelty, perversion, rebellion, greed, foundations. The end was in sight. Christians love to be persecuted, but this was probably the only time in history that only some of them were. The only way Satan could have stopped this trust was to create a counterfeit, quote, Christian religion to destroy the work of God. The solution was in Rome. The religion had come from ancient Babylon.
Oh.
And all it needed was a facelift. This guy definitely read
So
here's
Babylons. Here's a quick thing about the imperial cult in Rome. So the imperial cult in Rome did generally have the form of treating the emperor as a god, but its actual function was less to enforce some kind of religion on people and more to make sure that people were doing things that indicated their loyalty and obedience to the state, as opposed to like actually caring what your beliefs about spirituality or the actual divinity of the emperor was. And it's actually not clear that most emperors honestly thought of themselves as being gods, even though there was an imperial cult that would switch who its focus was whenever the emperor switched. So basically, it's pretty hard to find a Roman emperor just declaring that I am God. That didn't really actually happen all that much. It was sort of like standing up if you're in the United States and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. It's mostly an empty gesture that just reaffirms your civic dedication to whatever polity you happen to be living in.
Nationalism.
Yeah, so the idea of the Roman emperors calling themselves or declaring themselves to be gods is a bit overstated. Even though, yes, like I said, the imperial cult did involve things that were typical of worship of various gods in the Roman Empire.
It's not for me though, so when I read the line, I meant it.
Oh, fair enough.
This part of the tract is basically him paraphrasing the Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop,
and how
which we need to do a stream on because
I'm okay with doing that.
Paraphrase right? Did you do a good job? On a scale of 1 to 10.
It's not something you can rate on a scale of goodness. It's just
different
bad
kinds of
information
bad.
that's not historically accurate. So, okay.
I meant
this
his
didn't happen
paraphrase.
overnight. It took time.
Did he paraphrase it well?
Well, we haven't read all of it yet, so we have to find out.
Okay.
The germ started in the writings of the so-called early church fathers. It was through their writings that this new religion would take shape. Satan was creating as a monster. The statue of Jupiter in Rome was eventually called St. Peter, and the statue of Venus was changed to the Virgin Mary.
No, none of this happened.
Citation needed.
My goodness, where's my
Drop
citation?
There's your citation right there.
Yeah,
You just said it.
We need a citation there. No. My goodness. Plus, I mean, you can just look at this. This doesn't look like any depiction of St. Peter. And also, that doesn't look like any depiction of Mary. This is crazy town.
But it's a
None of
woman and
those
she's
look
wearing
like anything
robes.
I've ever seen before.
Oh, she's wearing robes just like everybody.
Is that what that is? It's really too hard to tell.
Well, that's because it's a really crappy scan.
It's just bad art and bad
Okay.
scans of bad art.
The site chosen for its headquarters was on one of the 7 hills called Vaticanus, the place of divination and the place where the
Vaticanus.
satanic temple of Janus stood.
Imagine.
How can it be satanic if it's Greek?
Imagine
or
the idea.
Roman?
Well, there's a big problem there. But also, imagine the idea of a new religion becoming the official state religion, and the older religions having already largely been abandoned in most cases, and then taking a prestigious spot and converting an old building that was used as a temple into a new building that's used for a new temple to a new religion. That's never happened before. Except, yeah, it does. I mean, even now,
Except for all the times it did happen.
right, the thing is that's a common thing. You look at buildings right now, and like a modern building that's currently, say, like a Baptist church. Sometimes those are just reconverted Catholic churches. Like in my hometown, the local Catholic church my grandmother used to go to, now it's non-denominational evangelical church. They took out all the statues. I think they got rid of most of the stained glass, and it's now a different kind of church. It just happens. Blitz Winters for $5 says, just got here, already spent several $100s before breakfast this morning getting the brakes fixed on my car. What's a few more? Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I hope your brakes are fine and they don't have any repeats of problems. Oh, it's Puck.
Okay.
We got Puck Cam.
Say what?
We got
Hey,
Puck
bud.
Cam
Hi, Puck.
right above you.
Oh. Okay.
Good boy, Puck.
Oh, and for $5, Vandali1998 says, all this time, Aphrodite and Mary was the same person. The more you know. Yeah, no.
Okay. Its great counterfeit religion was called Roman Catholicism, and Jesus called it mystery. Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth, Revelation 17:5.
No, so
She was raised up to block the gospel, slaughter the believers in Christ, establish religions, create wars, and make the nations drunk with the wine of her fornication, as you will see on the following pages.
Oh,
I
good.
would like to object.
Oh boy.
Because the Catholic Church has not slaughtered believers in Christ in the numbers it slaughtered non-believers in Christ.
oh, it's done a bit of both, too.
Objection, hearsay.
Magensian Crusade was definitely against believers in Jesus.
Cool story, but the Inquisition.
Well, the thing is, the Inquisition also killed a lot of people who believed in Jesus. They just believed different things in the Catholic Church.
Colonialism in all of the New World.
Oh boy.
Also, colonialism in India slaughtered native Christians there. So, yeah, just... It's definitely true that various Christian churches have killed a lot of Christians in the past, even though they're the minority of victims of religious violence by Christians.
Yeehaw.
Also, of
Since
course-
the Roman
oh, sorry.
Empire was...
I was going to say that also, you got to realize that these people are landmarkist Baptists who imagine that there was always this Baptist religion hanging out in places where Christianity was, and it was always being persecuted and they were being killed by Roman Catholics because they were the one true church and they were opposing Rome. This is all just a fantasy. None of this actually happened. There was no ancient Baptist church going all the way back to the apostles.
This is a fanfic.
Basically,
Basically.
Baptism as like a religion is its own fanfic of Christian history. That's its foundation, is a fanfic of Christian history.
Since the Roman Empire was dissolving, they could no longer pay for spies. When did they pay for spies? So the new religion
Before
of
the-
Catholicism took over that responsibility. Citation needed. Where do we get spies from?
It happened in the part we skipped.
Oh,
Probably.
of course.
Obviously.
Policies set up by the old Roman Empire were carried on, spying on Jews and Christians, quote, the believer in Christ, and plotting their destruction. Monasteries started springing up in North Africa. They were strategically placed wherever there was a Christian settlement. Well, why wouldn't you put them in the middle of the Christian settlements? Why wouldn't you just put them out in the middle of the...
Imagine Christian monasteries springing up where Christians live. What are the odds?
There are some fanfic that are about this
Can't explain
level,
it.
and there are some fanfics that are
explain it.
really, really good. And you know, you just gotta kind kind of pick and choose. You never know what you're gonna get.
Oh god, the religious heads in Rome had their eyes on the descendants of Ishmael who were living as nomads throughout North Africa, which is funny because weren't they supposed to be Arabians?
Yeah, there's another thing is that Islam does not arise in North Africa. It arises in the Arabian Peninsula. Like all of its early history is contained in like the southern and like southwestern Arabian Peninsula, places like Mecca, Medina.
Funny. Anyway, in the Old Testament of the Bible, in the book of Genesis, God chose a man named Abraham to become a father of nations. God promised Abraham and had a son, but his wife Sarah was barren. She offered him, we know this story. Hagar had a son, named him Ishmael, the father of the Arab nations. The Bible says Hagar despised her mistress. When Sarah was 90, she had Isaac. She laughed. That's why they called him Yitzchak. Sarah negged Abraham until he was cast out as bondwoman, blah, 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 blah. Hagar left with Ishmael, but God told Abraham that his son would be the nation because he is your seed. In the desert without water, God heard the voice of the land and spared Ishmael, and he grew up and was super jacked. And today the offspring of Ishmael total almost 1 billion souls. In the fourth.
Okay, so in the 4th century.
Scary big numbers.
So let's remember, the 4th century is when the empire once again has a single emperor, and he has declared official toleration for Christianity, but has not made it the official religion of the empire. And so, remember here, because we're about to hear this contradicted, the actual history of this is that there is currently a single emperor ruling the entirety of the Roman Empire, and the Pope is definitely not him.
Oh. Are you sure?
Very sure.
How do you know?
Okay.
Because we have the names of both of those individuals, and they're not the same guy, and they didn't even live in the same place.
But
Well,
did
were you
ever
there?
see them in the same place at the same time?
Yeah,
Actually,
could be
yeah,
like
some.
the same
Well, I
thing.
didn't, but yeah, they were in the same place at the same time. Like when Constantine marched across the
But
bridge
you just
into
said
Rome.
that they didn't live in the same place.
That doesn't mean they didn't never visited. You visited people who you don't live with.
No, I don't.
Fair
I don't
enough.
leave my house.
In the 4th century, multitudes in the rural areas heard about the holy man in Rome who replaced the Caesars.
No.
No, he had a strange army of priests, monks, and nuns who fasted, prayed, and helped the poor. No, they didn't. Not at that
Strange?
point.
Specifically strange?
this
How
is-
strange?
So this is actually before Christian monasticism really gets off the ground, is one thing. So he definitely didn't have an army of monks and nuns. Further, the priests in Rome were doing the same thing as the priests throughout the rest of the empire and outside of it. Like, when
Oh my
the
gosh.
Council of Nicaea was called in the 4th century, they invited people in the Persian Empire because it was all the same religion. The Pope was invited. The Bishop of Samarkand was invited. That's how far afield invitations were sent. Now, very few people from outside the Roman Empire ended up making it because travel was dangerous and long, and so most of them were just like, nah, I'm not going to do that. But,
Well,
in fact,
he,
even the Pope didn't come.
Jack Chick obviously thinks that Roman Catholicism emerged fully formed like Athena springing from the head of Zeus. So,
In the 4th century.
in the 4th century, the people looked at the religious followers of this man, the Pope, with fear and great respect. In Algeria, North Africa, in 354 AD, a devout Roman Catholic mother gave birth to a son. His name was Augustine. Augustine was a genius and eventually became a saint in the Roman Catholic religion. He was the Bishop of Roman Africa. This faithful Roman Catholic leader is called a church father. Augustine wrote two famous works.
Hold on. He wasn't the bishop of all of Northern Africa. Northern Africa didn't have its own single bishop. No. I hate all of this. I hate all of it.
This is so bad. Yeah, this is just so bad. Augustine wrote two famous works, The City of God and Confessions, which, unknown to the Arab world, have greatly affected their lives for centuries. Citation needed.
I've
Augustine
read
was
both of them. They have nothing to do with Islam. They really don't. They're just expositions of Christian theology with sort of an Aristotelian like background. That's it.
We don't need facts in this tract. Okay.
Where we're
Augustine
going-
was busy winning Arabs to Roman Catholicism, including whole tribes, but multitudes of Arabs hated Catholicism and wouldn't convert.
What Arabs? He was living
That's-
in Hippo
He was living
in
freaking-
Numidia. There were I can't say there were no Arabs because obviously there were traders and people who would moved around, but like
oh my god,
there
this
was-
is so bad.
There was no big population of Arabs where he lived. He was a Berber. There were Berbers, but you know what Berbers aren't? Arabs.
Arab.
There's a reason the Berbers fought a civil war against Arabs in North Africa in the 20th century. It's because they're not the same people.
Oh boy.
Weird.
Oh my goodness.
Space
this
and
is so
time
bad.
both probably exist.
In time, spies were sent to those remote nomads who rejected Catholicism and spread the word that one day a great leader would appear who would gather the Arabs together. 200 years after Augustine, around 570, so that's almost 300 years, but whatever. Muhammad was born in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. This man would change the course of history.
Well, at least we're starting to get into the point where he's getting centuries more or less okay-ish. So that's a plus. But, like, okay. There is no history of Catholicism being a common thing among Arabs at the time. There were a bunch of Christian Arabs, but they were primarily what's in a group that's now called the Nestorian Church, because go back to the Ecumenical Council that condemned Nestorius. He was exiled, but the churches outside to the east of the Roman Empire weren't really party to that council, so they didn't really care that he had been condemned by that council. And also, based on the writings that we have now, it looks like Nestorius probably wasn't actually teaching the thing he was condemned of teaching. So, you know.
Well, of course there wasn't a history of, like, Roman Catholic Arabs, because they all rejected it, duh.
The thing is, they accepted Christianity in the form that was native to that region, that arose there centuries earlier.
Only
and it's not Catholic.
Catholicism.
They don't have any particular place for the Bishop of Rome in their theology. They don't care. They didn't even care at the time. They cared so little at the time about the Bishop of Rome that when he and the other bishops in the Roman Empire were conducting a council, they just ignored it because they weren't there. So they were like, well, we weren't in this council, so we don't care about it. And those groups still exist today, and they're still not Catholic. Basically, Jack Chick is just like, well, anyone who dresses up fancy to conduct a church service, that guy's Catholic. That's not how anything works. These are
All non-Protestants are Catholic.
Yeah. The thing is, it takes a lot of knowledge about Christian history to get this stuff right. You can't just shotgun a bunch of craziness. I mean, I guess you can, because obviously he did. But you can't get it right if that's all you're going to do. You actually have to learn these things. You have to learn about things like, you know, who was in charge of Christian churches outside of the Roman Empire. How is the Nestorian Christians got all the way to China? We still have remains of Nestorian churches in China. They weren't Catholic. Most of them probably didn't even know who the Bishop of Rome was at any given time. Because, you mean, they were in China. They didn't care. They were busy doing things like they were first busy doing things like becoming scholarly advisors to Chinese emperors, and then being expelled from China because they were too foreign, even though most of them were actually native-born Chinese.
Yeehaw.
Fun times.
Okay. I guess I'll actually try this time. Muhammad called himself the messenger of God. He established the great religion of Islam. In less than 20 years after his death, his armies defeated the Byzantine and Persian empires, and later his armies swept into Europe. The Prophet Muhammad was an amazing man. First, I'd like to show you the Islamic religion as the world sees it, then I'll share what I learned in the Vatican, how Islam actually came into existence. You'll be shocked.
Dun, dun, dun.
What I'm going to tell you is the most incredible story of intrigue that you will ever hear.
I actually prefer that we'll never hear.
Crazy guy at an airport.
yeah. That's literally what's happening in this comic book. Which
airport was this at again?
LAX.
Which, by the way, I hate LAX.
Everyone hates it.
Okay.
Everyone.
Like last time I flew to California, I chose to fly in a manner that meant that I had to drive like an extra 4 hours just so I wouldn't have to spend any time in LAX. I was like, nope, not gonna.
I respect that.
Just gonna avoid LAX.
What? You didn't want to have this conversation?
It's a nightmare. It always has been. And even though they're tearing apart half the grounds to make a tram system so the parking sucks less, it's going to make it suck more. Good times.
Yeah. If anyone is ever flying into California, if you can, avoid LAX. That's just my recommendation.
There are like 5 other airports that are much easier to deal with, and the lines are way shorter. Like, go to Orange County, John Wayne, go to Long Beach, go to Ontario, Burbank. I mean, avoid LAX, please. But it's cheaper.
I had a pretty
Not
nice
when you pay
experience
for
in this.
gas.
Yeah, that's actually had a nice experience in the Sacramento airport. Although that's not super related. They're not super close.
That's like 6 hours away. Okay. This is how the world sees the great religion of Islam founded by the Prophet Muhammad, which now has almost 1 billion followers. Yeah, that number's a lot higher now.
Okay, but here's the reason. There's a reason that the world sees it that way. It's because that's how all the evidence that's what all the evidence indicates, is that that's what happened.
Weird.
Their most sacred city is called Mecca, and it is found in Saudi Arabia. It's also the birthplace of their prophet Muhammad. Islam claims that Abraham and Ishmael built the house of God beside the well, Zamzam, which saved the life of Ishmael and his mother Hagar. Who wants to be Abraham?
I guess I'll be Abraham. Here is where we will build my son.
The original house of God was small compared to the newer 50-foot cube-like stone structure which replaced it. It is called the Kaaba, the house of God. Faithful Muslims worldwide pray 5 times a day in the direction of this holy place, praying directly to their God Allah without an intermediary.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm actually impressed by how accurate this picture of like the Kaaba is. Like that's actually what the door in it looks like, and you've got the cloth that mostly covers. Look, I don't give Chick props for much.
It's probably a picture with just atrocious Photoshop filters.
It could actually be that.
But this is 1988, dude.
Oh yeah, that's true. There were no Photoshop
It
filters
might
in
be a
1988.
scan. It might be a scan that he
MS
drew
Paint.
on top of, though.
Yeah, he could have traced it.
Paint.
Anyway, faithful Muslims were really blah, blah, blah. In Mecca, the faithful Muslims circle the Kaaba, shedding tears, seeking blessings and mercy, yearning for Allah's company in paradise. 3 major religions have one thing in common. Each one is a holy place where they look to for guidance. Roman Catholics look to the Vatican as the holy city. The Jews look to the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem as their holy place. The Muslims look to Mecca as their holy city. Each group believes they receive certain types of blessings for the rest of their lives by visiting their holy place. Citation needed. In the beginning, visitors would bring gifts to the house of God, and the keepers of the Kaaba were gracious to all who came. Some brought their idols, and not wanting to offend these people, their idols were placed inside the sanctuary. It is said that Jews looked upon the Kaaba as an outlying tabernacle of the Lord with veneration until it became polluted with idols.
Who said that?
Needed.
Whoever said that? I've literally never heard anyone, including Jewish people, claim that Mecca ever had any particular religious significance to Jews. I mean, there were Jews there.
There were Jews in and about the area.
Yeah, there were. I mean, we actually have historical and archaeological evidence of Jews in the area.
But also, we don't consider tabernacles outside of Jerusalem to be legit. So nice try.
That's just what the Jews want you to think, Vishanti.
That's what I want myself to think.
Exactly.
Eventually, the people no longer had access to the well because the tribe guarding the sacred places were unjust. These people were from Yemen and were called Yurhumites.
Probably the J, because we did Arabic.
Okay. It's hard for me to read. The scans were really bad. The Jurhumites also had control of Mecca. Finally, the people rose up against them and drove them away. As they left, the Jurhumites got even. They dumped part of the treasure of the Kaaba, offering of the pilgrims, which had accumulated for years, into the well. They filled it with sand, and the well disappeared. A tribe called the Kuzites took over, but they allowed the Moabite god Hubal to be placed in the Kaaba and continued in idolatry.
Okay, so fun fact.
Where's he getting this?
We don't have any historical records of any of this. Now, part of this, we don't have a whole lot of good records of this time period because, Muslims destroyed a lot of the records of this time because very, very, conservative Islam tends to say that anything that happened in a place before Islam came there doesn't really matter, because really what matters is the new age of enlightenment in Islam. And so that's why you have things like the giant Buddha statues in Afghanistan being up by right-wing Muslim extremists, because that's the position they have. And yeah, so there was a whole lot of destruction of historical records. It's also why we don't have a very good textual history for the Quran, because a bunch of Qurans that weren't the official codex were kind of rounded up and burned. So, but still, that doesn't mean you get to make up everything.
Well, who's going to prove him wrong?
The
Kuzites were replaced by the Quraysh, a powerful tribe of Arabs descended from Ishmael. There was a man in Mecca who was respected by the Quraysh, even though he was of the tribe of Hashim. His name was Ad al-Muttalib. It's really hard for me to read this text. And he was the grandfather of the Prophet Muhammad. Say again?
Abd al-Muttalib.
Thank you. He was given visions telling him where to find the well. A spirit told him to look for blood, dung, and an ant's nest and pecking birds.
Fun times.
That's like everywhere.
Yeah, that is actually a pretty common thing. Where would you not find those things?
Okay, he found the clues between two idols where the Quraysh performed their sacrifices. He dug and found the well and its treasures and became the hero of Mecca. Abd al-Muttalib?
Abd.
That is a really hard phenome for me. I'll have to practice this later.
It's just a voice-pharyngeal fricative. It's easy. Abd. It means slave.
Thank you.
Or black person, fun fact. Because in Arabic, the word for slave and black person are exactly the same word.
Awkward.
Yeah.
He prayed to his god. If this god would bless him with 10 sons, specifically, he would sacrifice one of them to him at the Kaaba. Over the years, his prayers were answered. His youngest son was his favorite, a handsome youth by the name of...
I just lost our place. Where even are we?
Top left.
Top left? Oh.
Right there, you're looking at the guy with the tongue.
Right. Well, you could just say Abdullah, because that's the same name.
Some youth by the name of...
Abdullah. Or you could just say Abdullah, because that's how most Americans...
Abdullah, okay. Cool. It was time to keep his vow to God. One of his sons must die.
Dun, dun, dun.
In the Kaaba. In the Kaaba, before the Moabite god Hubal, arrows were used in a divination ceremony. The lot fell upon his youngest son, which he had already sworn to get. Anyway.
Can I point out real quick that if this was the Christian God asking and let the dad decide if he gave anything but his favorite, he would have basically been the Cain of the story. And Cain and Abel...
I'm not sure I entirely follow all that.
I didn't either, because Cain and Abel were siblings. Are you thinking about Abraham and Isaac?
No, when Cain and Abel brought their offerings towards God, Abel was favored by God because Abel brought the best of his sheep, whereas Cain brought his mediocre of his grain.
Stupid fruits.
I mean, he brought his grain. It didn't say that it was shitty, just that God didn't accept it. I'm being pedantic, but just...
So basically,
anyway.
in most...
Maybe I'm misremembering that.
So in various Abrahamic religions, there's a long tradition of figuring out why God didn't like the grain and why he did like the sheep. And there are a whole bunch of different interpretations, one of which is that perhaps Cain didn't bring the nicest of what he had. But
Well, how does the King James phrase it? Because that's the only one that matters.
it's true.
Like, what is it? Reference needed?
There's something I actually like in this, which is that
Hit title.
this guy is holding some arrows, because according to Islamic sources, the ways that the Quraysh cast lots was basically by spinning arrows, and then whichever way it pointed would determine which of the random things you were selecting. So I do like that they're actually showing a historically...
Spin the bottle.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But I do like that they're actually showing, or sometimes they would also toss them and see which way they landed. But using arrows for divination is in fact the appropriate thing to depict here. So I appreciate that attention to detail, because you know what, there's a whole lot of nonsense. So whenever we get to something that's reasonable and accurate, I'm going to say, you know what, good job, guys.
Do you want to be the divinator?
Sure. This one.
The mother Abdullah, along with the others, opposed him. His sons begged him to let their brother live. He visited a wise woman for advice. She consulted with her familiar spirit, and she told... Thank you. To cast lots again to see if God would accept the sacrifice of camels. In his son's place, 100 camels were killed, and...
Abdullah. We were just going to go with Abdullah.
Okay, was spared. He became the father of the Prophet Muhammad. He married Amina in...
Oh, I don't have to say Muhammad.
I'm not even going to go there. Okay, but also, why is she wearing North African facial tattoos?
Because the author is confused as to whether or not we're in North Africa or the Arabian Peninsula. Because remember, we were talking about North Africa for no reason, because he could connect it to Augustine. And then we're talking about all the North African Arabs that didn't exist. And then we're suddenly in Arabia for no reason. Like,
Time is bendable, space is meaningless.
Yeah.
We teleport from sitting down to over to that buddy near that kid eating ice cream.
We literally jumped from Arabia to North Africa and then also Afghanistan and some what are the Pakistani women use facial tattoos like that. So I'm like, where are we exactly?
We're in the nebulous quote unquote Muslim world, which a lot of people tend to just think is one thing because that's how geography and culture and religion work.
It's just
This next
easier
panel's
to-
going to give me a stroke.
to group
It was
your
the
opponent
Roman
that way.
Catholic Arabs
Who basically didn't exist. Got it.
who were pushing the concept of looking for an Arab prophet just as the Jews were looking for their Messiah. Who but a prophet
no.
would be capable of ridding the Arabs of their worship of false gods? There was even an icon of the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus in the Kaaba.
No, there wasn't. There's no evidence of that. Okay, so
I need to pee.
yeah, you know, we're gonna take a quick break and then
Yeah,
we're gonna
let's
come
take
back.
a break.
All right, we will be back in just a few minutes, guys. We're gonna go on an intermission. Please stick with us, and yeah, it's gonna be insane. All right. All right, welcome back to everyone on the panel, and I'm glad that you guys stuck with me, those of you who did. By the way, I'm seeing over 20 people who haven't hit like on this stream. Come on, guys. We're reading all the stupid stuff in public for your benefit. Give me a like. Toss me a like. That's all I ask.
Or at least a dislike.
Yeah, I mean, there's that too.
Toss a like to your Witcher.
I personally dislike this.
Okay,
so I'm gonna pick back up, and actually we're not quite halfway, so I'm gonna half-ass it for a little longer.
we're actually probably more than
Amina-
halfway because we're not going to do the last few pages that are just the preaching.
He also put his gospel story kind of in the beginning, so
Yeah, but I've seen the end.
Double-
The end panels were a
Double
bunch
the
of end
preaching
time
for half the price.
nonsense. Like, there's that.
okay. Fair enough. All right. Abdullah married Amina in 8569. He had to leave it with a caravan to do some trading. He became ill and died. Amina was carrying his baby.
Yeah.
Oh
Begins reacting before the news.
Oh, who's
Sorry, Abdullah is dead.
no! Oh no!
Tradition teaches that she heard a voice say to her, do you want to read that, Dopper? It'd be the voice.
Thou carriest in thy womb the Lord of his of this people, and when he is born, say, I place him beneath the protection from the one, from the evil, from every envier. Then name him Muhammad.
When the child was born, his grandfather,
Blitz Winters for $5 says, toss a coin to your dapper, oh waters aplenty.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you very much.
you realize, Dapper, I'm going to make you read these names. When the child was born, his grandfather
Abdel Muttalib.
carried little Muhammad to the Kaaba and prayed a prayer of thanksgiving to Allah for his gift. Sons born to great Arab families in places like Mecca were sent into the desert to be suckled and weaned.
Why?
spent some of their
Why?
spent some of their childhood with Bedouin tribes, which are for
actually,
training and to avoid the plagues in the cities.
Brain hiccups.
So there is actually some evidence of children being fostered with Bedouins, although it's not clear if it was to avoid plagues. It's also not clear if it was actually really happening.
When was the plague of Justinian? That's way later than this, right?
Yeah, because I don't think Justinian was around yet.
Okay.
Although I have to double
Just
check.
checking.
But let's. Oh no, that was the same one. For some reason, it like popped up again into my like field of view, and I thought it was a new super chat. Never mind.
So far,
Okay.
this comic is convincing me that the Roman Catholic Church is not real.
The poor family who took Muhammad to nurse and care for him were greatly blessed in many ways. Doesn't specify. Islam teaches that when Muhammad was a small boy, two men in white appeared and laid him down, opened his breast, and brought forth his heart, and took from it a black clot, which they cast away.
So
Then they
there,
washed his heart with snow, because there's a lot of that. There was no mark on his chest. That's a miracle, but there was a small oval mark on his back, which had been there from birth.
so there are fairly late Islamic stories that do have that as a vision or some kind of dream that Muhammad had. But the problem is that they're from a fairly late stratum, and also if you look at the earliest things like sayings of Muhammad and the earliest biographies, it seems like Muhammad doesn't have an idea of his prophethood or chosenness by God until significantly after he starts receiving visions with the Quran. So it's hard to reconcile this as something that he would have actually experienced as a kid and then not realize that there's a connection there. So I'm skeptical that this was a thing that Muhammad actually reported himself, but it is in Islamic sources.
But if it
I'm
happened,
just-
it's evidence that
I'm baffled
time
that-
travelers from the future came back.
This
and
is
did
literally
medical
like
miracles.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom shit right here.
Well, that's why
God,
Tesla
you
Ranger,
God, give us
Shakti Day.
that's why Tesla Ranger has in chat already. Kalima, Kalima.
nice. You have dishonored Shiva. Years later, he was able to describe the event more fully, and then Muhammad made his incredible statement.
Who gets to be Muhammad? I've been a lot of characters. Chesh, I don't think you've been anyone in a while. You're Muhammad now.
Bent or me?
I think Chesh.
Oh boy. Okay.
We're on page 13. Satan touches.
Yeah, I know. I'm on the right page, but I don't see the quotation marks.
It's literally the green box where Muhammad's talking.
Oh, that's. Oh, I thought that was the 6-year-old. Okay. Satan touches every son of Adam the day his mother birthed him, save only Mary and her son asterisk. You guys would want me to get attacked for being Muhammad. What the hell?
Why would Muhammad be
I wanna be
pushing Roman
beheaded.
Catholic teaching? Isn't this strange?
So
No, because Jesus is a prophet in Islam.
yeah,
Why?
that's
What-
the thing.
It's just not the last
That's
one.
just too convenient.
Goodness.
Muhammad's mother Amina died when he was 6 years old, leaving him an orphan. Single tear. But his grandfather
Abdul Muttalib.
cared for him, but 2 years later, his grandfather died. Sad face. These were two of the great sorrows in his life. When Muhammad was 9, he was with his uncle on a caravan. A Roman Catholic monk saw the boy
No.
and questioned him, as you do.
Oh my
When he asked to
goodness.
see the mark on his back, he exclaimed it is the seal of prophethood. He warned
Oh.
Muhammad's uncle.
Take thy brother's son back to his country and guard him against the Jews. For my God, if they see him and know of him that which I know, they will construe evil against him. Great things are in store for this brother's son of thine.
All right, so
Why
again,
would the Jews care?
look, the Islamic sources are full of weird conspiracies about the Jews caring about things that they don't care about.
There sure is a lot of conspiracies around the Jews.
Yeah,
Some kid in a country you don't live in has a birthmark. Ah!
there were Jews in the area at the time. There were definitely Jews living there.
But they definitely cared about some random kid with a birthmark.
No, they did
let
not.
Me tell ya.
No, they didn't. Yeah.
Don't forget
So
about the black
again-
Did
cloth.
Jesus have the birthmark, the prophet birthmark too?
How would a Roman Catholic monk know anything about birthmarks meaning prophets? When has
So-
that ever happened?
yeah, there's a few things there. Is one, there essentially were no Roman Catholics at all. This was almost certainly an Nestorian monk, that being the predominant form of Christianity in the area at the time. And also, yeah, that's not a part of any Christian tradition, so
I'm
it's
going to start-
unlikely that this actually occurred.
From this point onward, I'm going to start demanding that anytime God needs us to know that anybody's special, he needs to write it on their forehead.
From birth.
Yeah.
Or their back.
Yeah,
No, forehead.
After they had some priests of Kali rip their heart out and clean a tumor off.
No way.
with snow.
Right on their
Yeah.
forehead. It needs to say,
Okay.
yo, this is my guy.
That reminds me, actually, Ben, has anyone looked into
Make sure to sign
snow
it dash capital
as a
D.
treatment for tumors?
Into what?
Has anyone looked into snow as a treatment for tumors?
Cocaine?
Just curious.
Not that I know of,
Okay.
but
Well, maybe they should.
Weird.
there's no reason to. Maybe, but
Okay.
maybe not.
Even
The
Rafiki put the mark on Simba's forehead.
Oh my god, this is just way too. This next line. The Roman Catholic monk had fanned the flames for future Jewish persecutions at the hands of the followers of Muhammad.
I mean, there would be some future persecutions of Jews at the hands of the followers of Muhammad. I don't think that
Yep,
this Catholic
but guess who
monk had
did
a
it
whole lot-
first?
Well, yeah. Well, actually, in that area, no, because in that area there hadn't been really Christian persecutions of Jews because there weren't enough Christians. So it's a geographic
Yeah,
thing.
but you know what is history? Anyway, Muhammad was 25 when he married a wealthy widow, Khadija. She was about 40. Okay,
Yeah.
get it, Khadija. Muhammad and Khadija had 2 sons who died young and 4 daughters. The most famous was Fatima, who married Muhammad's successor, his cousin Ali, as recognized by the Shia branch of Islam. About 610 AD, Muhammad claimed he had a vision for Balaam, a majestic being who he called the angel Gabriel, but he didn't call him Gabriel because that's the Hebrew version. Wasn't it Gabriel?
Jibril.
Jibril?
Yeah.
Jibril.
Well,
That's
so
right.
some dialects of Arabic would have a Gibril, but it looks like the dialect at the time was probably still using a J sound, that letter. So if you go with Gibril, I'm not going to complain.
Okay. Who wants to be the angel?
Do you want to be
You
the
are
angel?
the messenger of Allah.
Whoa!
Oh, David. Hold on, David DB numbers in the chat. You have to dip both of a fly's wings into it first before something in snow. In case you guys don't know, there's a saying of Muhammad that if a fly falls in your drink, you should dunk it in and then take it out, because one of the fly's wings carries a plague or disease, but the other one carries the cure, and you don't know which one might have gotten into your cup, so you might as well dunk it in to guarantee that you have the cure in there. And then I reviewed a quote-unquote scientific paper claiming to demonstrate the accuracy of this.
There is
It was a bad paper. Let's just put it that way.
It's not
there is an
scientific.
anime where it's all about, like, you know how anime is, where it's like basically superpowers.
Mhm.
It's not supposed to be superpowers, but it's basically superpowers. It's called Hitman Reborn. And one of the guys is a doctor, and his whole shtick is that he cannot get sick and he cannot die because he is infected with every disease, and he fights people and cures people by giving them the diseases that have the symptoms opposing whatever they currently have.
Yeah.
I feel like
That
indie-
probably would work better than snow.
Watch it; it's great. It's called Hitman Reborn, and it's like a shonen anime.
Okay.
It's only in
Tessa
Japanese, but
Reader asked if the paper was Hoban level bad, and no, probably not. I don't
It's hard
think.
to
It
be
was
that
bad
bad.
though.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's like at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, because Kent can't write a scientific paper. He
Well,
can't even write a dissertation. So
It's hard to type and be able to write a paper that bad, which is why Kent didn't type it.
yep.
So
This
like,
began Muhammad's career as a prophet of Allah. From this time on, Muhammad continued to receive messages which he claimed came from Allah until his death, with the help of his wife's Roman Catholic cousin, Waraqwa.
Okay,
Waraqwa?
so here's a few things.
What-
One, the rule about U's and Q's doesn't happen in Arabic. Q is usually used to transcribe the Arabic letter qaf, which is a uvular unvoiced stop. And yeah, you don't put a U after it there, Jack. It's Waraqa. And it's not even Waraqa, it's Ibn Waraqa. But he wasn't Roman Catholic. He was a monk that copied translations of the Bible in Syriac, which has never been a liturgical language of the Catholic Church, by the way. So the very fact that he's using Syriac to copy Christian scriptures shows us that this guy, at least in the context of the Islamic stories about him, is not Roman Catholic.
Dapper read David B's comment.
Peace be upon him, get title. Wow.
GG.
That was
that
epic.
wins today.
That wins.
GG.
My
Oh
goodness.
God, that was great. Oh man.
Wow.
Okay, well, what Akka said.
Verily, Muhammad is the prophet of this people. Asterisk, asterisk.
Some of his revelations are placed in the Quran in 650 AD. Other writings of Muhammad were never published. In the 5th year of Muhammad's mission, persecution came against his followers because they refused to worship the idols at the Kaaba. Muhammad instructed some of them to flee to Abyssinia. Negus, the Roman Catholic king of Abyssinia, accepted them because of Muhammad's views on the Virgin Mary, which were so close to Roman Catholic doctrine.
I'm kind of confused. Is Chick for or against Islam right now? Because he gets a lot of stuff wrong.
But then he gets a few things right here and there, and also, again,
But isn't he
Abyssinia wasn't
also
Catholic.
saying they're part of the Catholic Church? And
kind of.
I don't understand what I'm supposed to be
Well, so,
gleaning from this.
Here's one of the curious things, right? Jack Chick threw out, what is it, Alberto, what was it? Alberto Rivera?
Rivera.
Okay.
Is this part of the Catholic Church that's run by the devil, by the way? Because that was from last time we were.
Well, apparently the whole thing is run by the devil, apparently. But
Oh,
so here's the thing, right?
okay.
We have this idea from Jack Chick that the Pope is secretly pulling the strings behind the scenes of all this stuff that's going on. Hey, look,
Mhm.
it
The
was
Pope
like
runs the Illuminati. I mean, everybody knows that.
it was like almost a year-long journey to go between the area that we're talking about in Saudi Arabia and Rome.
They didn't have instant messenger.
Yeah, how could he possibly have been coordinating this? Plus, in this story, Muhammad just comes across random Christians that Jack Chick is calling Catholic basically because they weren't Protestant. Because, hey, spoiler alerts, there were no Protestants at the time. That
Devil
wasn't invented
magic.
yet. And so, like, the existence of non-Protestant Christians in Arabia does not indicate they were under orders from the Pope, and even if they were, how were these orders being transmitted?
Devil magic.
Telepathically.
Devil magic.
Honestly, he
More time
mentioned
travel?
that Roman Catholics founded this religion, and the only thing that's happened so far is some random monk in the desert randomly happened to find him and go, "Hey, kid, what's your deal?"
Well, actually,
Oh
that's,
wait, show me your birthmark.
so that's actually another thing that I want to talk about, which is the fact that
Show me your birthmark, bro.
this first monk in the desert and Waraka are actually not the same character, even though Jack Chick doesn't seem to be making that clear. The first one is an event that happens relatively early in the life of Muhammad, according to the biographies. And this event with Waraka happens because after the event where Muhammad gets his first revelation, he's not sure what's going on, and he's afraid that he's possessed by some kind of evil spirit. So his wife, thinking that he's not possessed by some evil spirit, brings him to her cousin, who's a Christian priest and monk, and says, "Hey, what do you think?" And he says, "Oh, I think this is probably a vision from God, and you're actually a prophet." These are separate events, and this is the event that then convinces Muhammad that he's not possessed by some kind of devil or something, and that instead is in fact receiving messages from an angel from God. But we're not making that distinction very clear here, because who cares about actually getting any of this across in an intelligible way?
No,
Okay,
because
well-
to Jack Chick, it's all wrong anyway. So
Well, since we know
Anyway.
he's such a fan of D&D, the Warlock in 5th edition, if you pick the Great Old One pack, you do get Dissonant Whispers, Detect Thoughts, Clairvoyance, and Sending by
So-
level 3rd.
Are we saying that the Pope is a great old one patron warlock?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, there you go. But isn't there a range on Dissonant Whispers and all those? Like,
Not once you get to Sending. Sending can be anywhere on the plane, I think.
Dapper, there's a comment in the chat that is saying Catholic Church did not create Islam, but the founder of Islam was Catholics or one of the other Christian groups at some point.
Citation, please.
yeah, citation.
Yeah,
You have so the founder of Islam is Muhammad. Do you have any evidence that he was a Catholic? Because there's plenty of
Trust me,
evidence
bro.
that he encountered Christians. But
Ooh!
there's no evidence
was
that he was
wrong.
Catholic. Oh, what's
Sending is an unlimited range. However, there is a 5% chance that the message does not arrive if you are going across planes.
well? That's still on the same plane, so there's a 0% chance of it failing.
Correct.
Okay, so Muhammad claims that one night while sleeping next to the Kaaba, because that's just something you do, he was awakened by an angel called Jibril who led him to a heavenly type of animal with wings named Burak. When he mounted the beast, it's a Pegasus, they flew to the site of the Jewish temple ruins at Jerusalem for some reason.
Hold on, it's not just a
Muhammad said he was
Pegasus.
joined-
It's a Pegasus with a human head.
Does
Oh, of
Gabriel
course.
work for the devil?
No, Muhammad's just lying.
By the way,
Oh.
the reason that it's being brought to the temple at Jerusalem is that Muhammad believed that that was in fact a site for worship of God, because he accepted the idea that the various prophets from the Tanakh were actually prophets from Allah. And so, in fact, before Muslims started praying towards the Kaaba, they actually prayed towards Jerusalem.
And or Petra. There's a really neat documentary on that.
Although in many places
Long
that would have
story.
been roughly the same direction.
I'm disappointed that we didn't get his drawing and interpretation of the horse face.
Yeah, me too.
He didn't want to draw it. It's an abomination.
Well,
Muhammad said at the temple site he was joined by the prophets Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and others who prayed behind him. After the prayer, he mounted Burak and ascended into heaven, where he again met with the prophets and finally God himself. Muhammad claims to have received the Creed of Islam and instructions for the 5 daily prayers directly from God in heaven. This vision made a tremendous impact on world history at a later date.
This is a really, really text-heavy comic book.
Yeah.
And
Because
also,
of
I did not know that you would
persecutions-
just be the narrator by taking on the position of the brown coat crazy man, Vishanti. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I will actually try to narrate this with effort at some point. But that is not now.
It's not yet.
Because of persecutions, Muhammad immigrated to Medina in 622, some 200 miles north of Mecca. From there, he led razzias,
Yeah.
attacks on caravans. He won minor battles and can't read that. And those opposing him in Medina were assassinated. Asterix, it was at Medina that Muhammad began to show his hostility towards the Jews by raiding Jewish settlements. Muhammad married other women for political reasons to form closer ties with their fathers or relatives of the women and to strengthen his position. Okay, who cares? Mecca
that's-
sent an army of 10,000 men to take Muhammad. They failed. They couldn't penetrate his defense. After a night of wind and rain, the great army melted away. Just like the Wicked Witch of the West. As a
Like the
statesman,
snow.
Muhammad didn't want to crush Mecca, but he wanted to win them to Islam.
So actually, that is not super inaccurate. So the thing is that the story of Muhammad's relationship with Jewish tribes in the area is a bit complicated, and it does deteriorate, but it doesn't start with him going to Medina and then just being a dick to all the Jews. It actually starts with him going to Medina and signing treaties with local tribes, some of whom were predominantly Jewish or entirely Jewish, and then various things happening, which some people interpret as those tribes breaking the treaties, and others interpret as Muhammad becoming increasingly antagonistic towards them, which then led to them to look for ways out of the relationship. So look, you can read this in many ways, and some of them are very, I would say anti-Semitic, except that the Arabs are just as Semitic as the Jews, so it's a weird thing to say when you're talking about Arab-Jew conflicts. Anti-Jewish. You can come up with some very anti-Jewish readings of those texts. The thing is, there are also reasonable interpretations where if you take the text at face value, there are things that can be reasonably seen as betrayals on the parts of some of these Jewish tribes. However, there were also instances where it's hard to come up with a good excuse, like the time that Muhammad raided an oasis settlement that was inhabited by Jews and killed all the men except for one guy who he tortured in order to find his Jew gold, and then he raped that man's daughter, who had just seen her brother and father killed. Yeah.
What are your favorite things in life, Conan?
Right?
Oh my god.
Actually, even Conan didn't say taking my enemies' women as sex slaves. Even he was like, nah.
Yeah, he just said to hear the lamentations of their women.
He just wants to hear their lamentations.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Hey, look.
Wonder what that meant.
Well, it's what lamentations are. They're crying about their lost family member. Yeah, that's all lamentations.
Yeah, huh?
That's what's best in life. In 630 AD, with 10,000 men, Muhammad cleared Mecca and the Kaaba was cleared of idols. Muhammad wanted to create his own religion. He needed the backing of his powerful tribe. He picked Allah, the moon god. That is not true, which they worshipped to be the one god and declared himself to be Allah's prophet. History proves that before Islam came into existence, the Sabaeans in Arabia worshipped the moon god who was married to the sun goddess. They gave birth to 3 goddesses who were called Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat. They became idols and were worshipped throughout the part of the world was daughters of Allah.
We're gonna have to stop for a second here.
I can't. Al-Ilah is contracted into Allah. It just means the God.
Yeah. So Allah or Al-Ilah in older texts is in fact the standard word for God that monotheists broadly in the area were using. It's the word that the Jews were using when they spoke Arabic. It's the word that the Christians were using when they spoke Arabic. It literally is just
rude.
God.
I don't want to be rude, but that statue looks like Batman.
It does.
It does.
So here's the thing. It's not clear what the pre-Islamic polytheist religion of Arabia was like, because again, a lot of those records were intentionally destroyed, and we don't have a lot of writings from that time that specifically reference religion. Most of what we have from pre-Islamic Arabic literature is either monumental inscriptions or some poetry that was not overtly religious. So it's not clear exactly what the relationship was between a god which the Arabs did seem to believe in as sort of the over-deity, as with the name of Allah, because there's, in a lot of polytheistic religious systems, there's the idea that you have the gods, but they're not the ultimate thing that created the entirety of reality, that there's something that is much more similar to the Abrahamic conception of God that created all of this, including the gods. And you actually get that in a lot of places. You get it in Egypt, you get it in Greece, you get hints of that perhaps in Arabia. So the connection there might be that the god that the Arabs thought of as the over-god, they also called Allah. And it's actually not entirely clear where the moon symbolism came from in Islam. And it could actually be that there was some connection between the over-deity of Arabic
Is that supposed
polytheism.
to be Quetzalcoatl?
No, it's an idol from Arabia.
Oh, okay.
I just find it interesting that this particular culture didn't associate feminine energy with the moon, which the vast majority of other religions at the time were doing.
Yeah, it is a little odd, but
that's odd.
Yeah.
Anyway, the crescent moon symbol is everywhere in Islam. Cool.
Yeah.
In 1950, this moon god was excavated at Hazor in Palestine. The photo shows Allah sitting on a throne. Notice the crescent moon on his chest. Again, cool story.
Okay,
Allah is
where
only
does
an
it
idol.
say it's Allah?
Wait, does it?
Yeah.
Doesn't. Oh my god. Okay.
We found a moon god in Palestine, which, by the way, not actually Arabia. At the time, Palestine did not have a whole lot of Arabs. It was still primarily Greeks, Jews, and Romans. There were Arabs there because, people move. But, there was not a big population of resident Arabs in Palestine. That happened later. Much later.
The Vatican desperately wanted Jerusalem because of its religious significance, but was blocked by the Jews.
The Jews who weren't in control of Jerusalem, which had been destroyed, and they'd all been sent out of it. There was a period around this time where Jews weren't allowed in the city.
No, not at all.
No, that was...
Oh my god, this is so crazy. It's
by
like
the time
all of a
you
sudden
get
we're
to the
jumping
7th
back
century,
to the Vatican wanting to do Jerusalem. We spent all this time in nebulous Arabia, and it's like all of a sudden they want Jerusalem. Freaking what?
The Jews were never in...
Sometime between this and where we started, Aladdin happened.
I'm waiting for that page.
Did you see the poll of Americans as to whether or not they supported attacking Agrabah?
No.
It was something like 70%. It was something like 60 or 70% of Republicans were in favor of bombing Agrabah.
Oh my god, incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
I hate it here.
It was pretty bad.
Truly the darkest timeline. Another problem was the true Christians in North Africa preaching the gospel.
What?
Roman Catholicism was growing in power and would not tolerate any opposition. What century are we even in? Somehow the Vatican had to create a weapon to eliminate both the Jews and the true Christian believers who refused to accept Roman Catholicism. The Great Schism hadn't even happened yet. Looking to North Africa, they saw the minorities of the multitudes of Arabs as a source of manpower to do their dirty work.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you want to posit that there is a dissident group of Christians in North Africa, you have to identify...
What's going on?
At this point, the cops
that guy from before that was looking at the kids' ice cream wasn't even part of their group, sat at their table, got up, walked away, went and sat at this chair, and is still listening to their conversation that's now happening in a whole nother section of the airport.
Yeah.
Well, it's coffee
and he still
shop.
doesn't have his ice cream.
It's coffee shop, but they took the words off the sign. I guess they closed maybe. I don't know.
The coffee shop. But I like that we're still listening to the people who are now leaving the building, but our frame here is just focused on this random dude who's got a newspaper.
Random dude just sitting there staring into space with a newspaper on his lap.
I mean, that's what I would be doing at LAX.
I'm so glad this guy's leaving.
Right.
Look, he can't get up. There's a text box.
And the thing is, around this time, there is the split between the Coptic Church and the Imperial Church. And so, in parts of much of North Africa, the Coptic Church is still a majority Christian group, although it's not the officially supported one. It wasn't suppressed in the same way as a lot of other non-Christian religions were, but it was, in fact, not the imperially supported church, so it didn't get any tax money, but it was still the majority group, and it still persists to this day. You can find Coptic churches the world over. It's a thing. But they weren't Roman Catholics. They also weren't part of the Imperial Church, which would later split into the Eastern Orthodox and the Roman Catholic Church, but they also weren't Protestants. Jack Chick wouldn't identify these people as just regular old Christians like he wants them. So if you want to say that there are quote-unquote true Christians somewhere in the world at this time, you gotta tell us who they were and how you know they were quote-unquote true Christians. You can't just make them up.
No citations will be provided.
This is going to be my heaviest use of citation needed in the history of Dapper Dino, which, by the way, guys, that is now the second GIF that pops up on Discord if you type citation needed, which makes me very happy.
Yeah, it's good.
A number of Arabs had become Roman Catholic and could be used in reporting information to their leaders in Rome. Still, they convert spies. Why? Others could be used as a fifth column, an underground spy network, to carry out Rome's master plan to control the great multitudes of Arabs who had completely rejected Roman Catholicism. When I love that. Saint Augustine appeared on the scene. He knew what was going on. Augustine was a very powerful and influential man with his own small army of followers. His monastery served as basis to seek out and destroy Bible manuscripts owned by the true Christians, who I won't
What?
tell you who they
The,
are.
the shadow version of this guy. kinda looks like
Augustine was
Landon.
made a saint for faithfully serving his mother church.
Oh my goodness. There was never a great seeking out of biblical manuscripts for them to be burned here in like the 4th century. Because remember, we're talking about Augustine, so we've traveled back in time a couple of hundred years. Again, I don't know why we're traveling back in time a couple hundred years to talk about St. Augustine again. Just none of this even begins to make any sense. We're hopping centuries. We're hopping
Also,
all across the world.
Muhammad's had all of these visions and been doing all this shit on his own. The only time he's ever interacted with a Catholic is that random dude in the desert who's like, oh my god, show me your birthmark.
Even that wasn't interacting with a Catholic. First, the thing is,
Anyway,
the Catholic Church, as in like the church that has the Pope as the supreme leader of Christianity and whatnot, hasn't like split off from just the Imperial Church. The only real things we can talk about right now in terms of Christian groups that we have actual evidence for, we have a few small groups that are by this point essentially extinct, like the Ebionites and things like that. And we have the non-imperial churches outside of the empire. There are things like the Nestorian Church. And then we have the Coptic Church, and we have the Imperial Church. And those are the only main players in Christianity at this point.
Okay, but the shadow version of this guy kind of looks like Landon. So I now instantly believe everything he says.
Oh, there you go. I mean, that's reasonable.
the Vatican wanted to create a messiah for the Arabs, someone they could raise up as a great leader, a man with charisma, who they could train and eventually unite all the non-Catholic Arabs behind him, creating a mighty army that would ultimately capture Jerusalem for the Pope.
I love that we have an
Imperial,
asterisk.
they still control Jerusalem.
I
sorry.
feel like if Ashanti is slowly like slipping into the abridged the abridged Helsing Ultimate.
Oh my
Vatican.
god.
I just love that we have we have an asterisk telling us what charisma means with Webster's dictionary as a citation. I just love it. It's like,
It doesn't even describe what charisma is.
yes, a special inspiring quality of leadership.
Maximilian, I think that character's name is.
Oh god, that series is so good though.
Venerable Beast says that he's
Yeah,
tired.
he keeps sending them by carrier pigeon, no less. He flies just straight into the Vatican.
The Venerable Beast is tired of my woke BS, guys.
Oh, well, shit.
In the Vatican briefing, Cardinal B told us this story. Okay, also, is this a unibrow or is she wearing a bindi for some reason?
I'm going with Bindi because I'm going to go with no one who was involved in the creation of this can tell the difference between Arabs, Berbers, Catholics, and Indians. All of that is just...
Nope.
They're all just kind of a milieu of not real Christians.
They're all just evolutionists.
Just brown, pagan, something or other idolaters.
But also
They're
Catholics who
all
are
just
often
the
white,
devil.
which is weird.
El Diablo, no.
A wealthy Arabian lady who was a faithful follower of the Pope played a tremendous part in this drama. She was a widow named Khadija.
You already
Didn't we
introduced
already
this
meet her?
character. Why are we getting another introduction to Khadija?
Why didn't you mention that she was a follower of the Pope before? She had given her wealth to Mother Church and retired to a convent. Were there convents?
No. By the time that we get to Muhammad, there were convents. But monasticism was only beginning to spread out of the area around, like, Egypt, which, by the way, still didn't have a whole bunch of Arabs in it. And so, at this point, we're starting to get the spread of monasticism, but, like, no.
She gave her wealth to the church and retired to a convent. While there, she was given a strange assignment and sent back into the world. Her job was to find a brilliant young man who could be used by the Vatican to create a new religion and become a messiah for the children of Israel. She soon found Muhammad and they were married.
Yeah.
Khadija had a cousin named Morocco. We already met him, who
Why
was
are we
like
doing
herself a
this?
very faithful Roman Catholic. He had a tremendous influence. The Vatican placed him in a critical spot as Muhammad's advisor. Rome had found their man, and money was no object. Teachers were sent to young Muhammad, and he underwent intensive training in Catholicism. Muhammad
It's funny how he
devoured
gets
the works of
Catholicism so
Saint.
badly wrong, man.
He devoured the works of Saint Augustine under Rodaka's teaching and became a devotee of his works. This was preparing him for his great
Okay, hold
calling.
up. Hold
I am
up.
so confused.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
This
a few
canon
things.
doesn't make sense.
Khadija didn't retire and give away all of her money according to any of the actual documents that we have about this woman. She was a wealthy widow who stayed wealthy and hired Muhammad to run her caravan business, to basically be the guy who was on the caravans, while she stayed in Mecca, because, I mean, if you're a wealthy widow, do you want to go on a trek through the desert?
At 40, you
Yeah, no, you want to sit home and have someone else do it, and you can pay them. Which, by the way,
I mean,
He's the
rich
pool
people
boy.
do that now.
this sounds like there's a little bit of a power imbalance because you're marrying your much younger employee. I don't know about that.
I mean, Cougar, just saying. Get it.
But yeah, so there's no evidence of Muhammad being a devoted student of Waraqah. Like, it's a guy he talked to at some point. We don't have any further stories about like deep engagement with Waraqah or anything like this. And also, I mean, if you read Islamic sources, it just gets Christian theology wrong in many cases. So if he was deeply studying Augustine's teachings,
Then he had shitty teachers.
right, like, how come none of this, like, Aristotelian stuff and the various other parts of the theology of Augustine makes it into Islam? There's no apparent knowledge of Augustine's specific teachings in Islam. But also, if you're trying to find a Messiah, maybe don't pick the guy who decides that Jesus is the Messiah and that he isn't.
Weird.
Yeah, because according to Islamic doctrine, the Messiah is Jesus. That already happened. That's something that Islam and Christianity have in common, is identifying that guy as the Messiah, specifically Jesus. Inkboy, who's been a member for 3 months to level Chesh Pod, thank you very much, Inkboy, says Chesh is on her own channel and here, witchcraft.
More
I mean-
proof of time travel.
One of the, I think in one of the episodes of the Seabed show, we were discussing about whether or not I knew voodoo magic. So don't worry about it. I'm also going to be over on Manya's channel in a little bit.
All right.
Whenever that starts, that'll be fun.
So, Satan was determined to block the gospel of Jesus Christ from reaching the children of Ishmael, even though they had contact with, quote, Roman Catholics. Okay, sure.
You see, that
By
doesn't count as
using-
the gospel, though, because that's
Of course.
evil non-Christians.
That's the evil Roman Catholic Church.
By using the Vatican, Satan closed the door for centuries, depriving the Arabs from hearing about the light of the world.
Vatican.
Under the orders from the Vatican, Roman Catholic Arabs from across North Africa, so we're now back to North Africa, began spreading the story of a great one who was about to rise up among the people and be the chosen one of their God.
The thing that bugs me is he
Show,
already...
don't tell.
He
Show,
act-
don't tell. Stop telling. Stop giving me blocks of text.
Here's-
Show
here-
me the story. You're using a visual medium.
Right?
Please.
Here's one
I
of the
don't
things
know
that
when
bugs
we
me.
are. I don't know where we are. I don't know what's happening.
Smitty, who's been a member for 3 months at the Tetrapod level, says Heart Manya. Yes.
Aw.
So here's one of the things that bugs me, though, is they showed a map where they put Mecca on the map in about the right place, and it wasn't in North Africa. Like, you guys put the map in there yourselves. You also put a different map of Africa earlier in the text. So you guys, the people, whoever drew this, which I think was Jack Schick, I think he's the artist here, he knows these aren't the same place. And also,
Doesn't
again,
care, it's all nebulous Middle East crap.
yeah, again, at the time, North Africa was primarily Berber and Roman. There were not big populations of Arabs. And sorry, guys, the Berbers aren't Arabs. They don't even speak a Semitic language. It is Afro-Asiatic,
Nope.
but it's not Semitic.
Woo!
Did you just say it's aphrodisiac?
No, Afro-Asiatic.
Oh, okay.
Okay. While Muhammad was being groomed, okay, sure, he was told
Oh,
that his
goodness.
enemies were the Jews. Okay, sure, so he was already attacking them, but then they had to tell him that his enemies were the Jews? Get your story straight.
It's also funny
He was
how
also
early on, Muhammad seems pretty friendly
Good. I
to
have
the
an
Jews.
excuse.
Yeah, he was fine with them at first, like, what's going on? He was also told that the Roman Catholics were the only true Christians and that the others calling themselves Christians were actually wicked imposters and the children of the devil who should be destroyed. This satanic teaching is believed today in the minds of Muslims worldwide, and it destroys the effort of reaching them for Christ in every Muslim nation. When Muhammad began receiving his divine, came forth the holy book of Islam called the Quran, which contains much of Muhammad's writings. Interestingly, from an early stage, Muslims received protection from Catholic kings because Muhammad's
Received protection from. It was various Christian kings. I'll grant you that. But the reason was because they came to various Christian kingdoms, when they were outside of Arabia, because there was persecution of, and they would say things like, "Hey, look, can you give us protection? We follow this prophet, and here's what he teaches, and is that close enough to what you believe that you're going to give us protection?" And the answer was often yes. You believe in one God. You think Jesus was Messiah. I don't agree with you about all this stuff, but you know what? That's good enough for us. So you can. Oh, I'm actually seeing a pretty bad connection right now. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, this is actually on my end now. This time, unlike last time where it was on YouTube's end.
I refreshed and it looks okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing it as okay right now. Sorry about that, guys.
He's in the Vatican, remember? He told all the secrets.
Yeah, he's totally best friends with all the Ayatollahs.
The Ayatollahs all go to the Vatican and like hang out with the Pope.
This
and they're
guy.
all just.
That looks like an eye to me. It looks like he spelled Ayatollahs.
Yeah,
They contain information that links the Vatican to the creation of Islam.
birth, and he must also be a prophet of God, which caused the followers of Muhammad to fear and respect the Pope as another holy man.
All right, guys. So we're actually going to start wrapping up because we're almost at 2 hours, and my connection is becoming very intermittent for no apparent reason. So we don't.
A part 2.
Here's the thing. I will ask on my community tab if people want a part 2, because at this point I think we've realized that you mean Africa?
Let's just scroll down a little bit.
Oh.
You can't see it on the outside. Not too far.
Oh. I don't see Australia. I see Africa.
Yeah, that was the joke.
Oh. Got it.
Thanks.
All right, so guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the community tab, and maybe I'll put a poll on Twitter. I don't know. So if you guys want to see a part 2, if you want to see us suffer through the rest of this, let me know. But I do think that we basically have the gist of it. It's Jack Chick and Alberto Rivera. Yeah, Rivera.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but that name just goes right into my brain and then right out. I don't know why. I don't normally
Alberto Rivera Romero.
Reasonable.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just making stuff up that has no actual
And
historical backing.
I am reading this as crappily and as quickly as I could, and we skipped like 4 or 5 pages in there, and we're still not even.
Still nonsense.
And I mean, listen, this is all just part of the devil's master plan of whatever that may or may not be. We never got clarification on what the devil's plan actually was. So
And we keep going: Arabia, North Africa, Jerusalem, and the Vatican. Like all
4th century, 7th century.
they've got a couple stargates just on the same planet.
That also time
Augustine,
travel.
and then popes, and then monasteries, and it's just like pick a lane, guy.
Yeah. So
We needed an editor for this one.
So what? We're gonna go through and see if anyone has anything that they want to talk about. What's coming up? What they're doing, and then we're gonna get out of here. So Chesh, what do you have coming up?
Come to my channel on Thursday this week coming up. I've got Landon and Kirk Wilcox coming on. We're going to talk about like the state of affairs and politics of the United States. It will be our first episode of something I'm calling Debate Hub. So if you're interested in debates and discussions, because apparently there's been some shenanigans that have gone on the normal platforms that nobody wants to go there anymore. So I will be providing the new platform for anybody interested in debates and discussions. I will be the host. You will not be debating me unless you want to. I guess that could come up at some point, but that's not the goal. Also tomorrow I'm going to be live talking about Vogue magazine and their coverage of Johnny. At least it's all labeled now. Dumbfeck Friday actually finally got a playlist.
Nice. What you got?
I'm making music.
Yay!
Did you make any music that people might be hearing coming up soon?
Oh yeah, it's out there, and there's more.
Well, on my end, let's see. Tuesday, the 24th, is going to be Jackson with Jackson. Wednesday, if you like seeing, you could. But then on Thursday, the next Speculative Evolution video is going to come out. So that is already uploaded. If you're a channel member or a patron, you have early access to that. Early access for that video is not going to last very long, so if you want to watch it early, you better do it like today or tomorrow. Or the next day. Let's see. On the 28th, we might be back to read more of this comic. We might not. It depends on what you guys want.
I gotta vote.
Yeah, you gotta vote. Then let's see. On the 30th, we're gonna have another Kent with Bent. Then on the 1st, we should be doing the next episode of Power Rangers Jungle Beast over on Top Hats Off. Then on the 2nd, I should be premiering the final episode of the Jewish Matt Powell with Yosef Mizrahi, who is at least as dumb as Matt Powell. Who I'll just give you a hint. Matt Powell's famous for thinking that there's air in space that the sun needs to burn through oxygen. Well, Mizrahi here said that Earth was put off to the right of the Milky Way, and I don't even know what that means.
And that it's a star, a cold star, which is why it doesn't.
Oh no!
This is how dumb this guy is.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Oh boy! Alright, let's get out of here
All right,
before
guys.
I start bleeding out the nose.
Thanks, everybody, and we're going to get the end credits, and we're out of here. Before you go, I want to take a minute to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or more. Work in Progress, Benthoven, Cynically Skeptic, Denny5252, Ian Chen, John Ackerman, Landon Knoll, Iapetus, Mabbity Babbity, Sphincter of Doom, Starrunner, and The Venerable Bean. Without my channel members and patrons, this channel simply wouldn't exist as it does now. You certainly wouldn't be getting up to 3 videos a week. You'd be lucky to get 1. So, if you're interested and you can afford it, check out my Patreon link in the description below or the Join the Channel button. Both of them get you access to the special patron and member-only Discord server, where I like to hang out. And at higher tiers, you can also get access to other things like your names in this credit, video requests, and more. No matter how much you pledge, you always get early access to my videos, and as of the time of this recording, that's about 10 different videos that you could have access to. If a monthly pledge isn't right for you, there are always other ways to support the channel. I have a merch store linked in the description. There's also an Amazon wishlist link there. And if none of that's right for you, and you just want to support the channel without spending any money, just liking these videos, commenting, and sharing them on social